Next In.
Well, welcome to Next In. This is our first September edition. We're excited to have Taylor, not me, different Taylor, with another. I mean, it's an amazing name. It's an awesome name.
It sure is.
It was my name first. I'm 41, so I think I had it first. I'm guessing I'm older than you with my gray hair.
Accurate, yes.
All right.
According to Taylor, the name is for sale. So
yeah, there you go. There you go.
Not a dad. I could do a dad joke or two.
Practicing, maybe. All right.
All right. So we have Taylor Sell from Trainual, who is the director of product for Trainual, here to join us on our all things conversation and Next In with for product. We're excited to have you. Thank you, Taylor. Where are you coming to us from?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. I'm actually coming from Scottsdale, Arizona today.
Oh, what's the weather in Scottsdale? Because everyone right now, that's all they really want to hear.
I think today it's going to be pretty okay. It's probably going to be like low 100s, which is pretty nice. So not too shabby.
It's just a nice chill day. Like a nice
nice and sunny. You know, you stay in the shade, you'll be fine.
Question. So I have to ask because Arizona is a trigger for me. You have or have not been down to Yuma?
I have not been to Yuma.
Okay, so my little brother, he's in the Marines, and he was stationed in Yuma. He was there for, I believe, 4 years, and I swore I would never go back because it's the only place on Earth where it was literally so hot, and there was so much sun that I burned my eyelids and I burned my nipples, and both my eyelids and my nipples peeled. Like it burned and peeled, and I will never go back. So anyway.
Yeah, you gotta be careful with the sun out here. Just either layer up, hats, sunscreen constantly. But outside of that, I mean, the winters are great. Like we got like maybe 2 more months of the heat, but then we'll get like 4 months of like incredible weather. So looking forward to that. But
are you looking forward to all the snowbirds who come down?
You know, I don't dislike the snowbirds. The only thing I will say is traffic does pick up a little bit, so you can tell when they come back into the area. But other than that, you know, they're pretty great. They're fun.
You hate the snowbirds, and I don't blame you because I would too. You decided, look, you take on the summer, you get the reward of the winter.
True. This is true.
So I'm from Chicago, and there were a lot of people. Right. My neighbor, actually, very, very, very close friend of mine, moved. He had a house in Chicago and a house down there, but he primarily just stayed in Arizona while he was doing commercial real estate down in Scottsdale area.
Okay, nice.
But he was kind of a snowbird, but I guess he made enough of a move there that he was like a Scottsdale person.
Nice.
I do love Scottsdale. North Scottsdale's awesome. However, I have made the claim, and I'll stick to it. I will never, ever in my life live in Arizona. I won't think about it. I won't live there because you guys have tarantulas. I can't live in a place where tarantulas.
True. And scorpions and a couple of other wonderful insects.
Yeah, we talked to a guy on here. Tim is awesome. Talked to him about Australia, and he talked about a red-backed spider that he saw while he was using the washroom. And that story was discussed. Do you have any really good, crazy, either snake and or insect story from the desert there in Scottsdale?
You know, I don't think that I do. Most of the like interactions with like scorpions or tarantulas have been in like a controlled environment. So like either at the zoo or there's a couple of times like there's a town up north where like they're kind of all over the town, but they kind of like avoid you, right? So like as you're walking down the street in the middle of the night or something, you'll see them like scurry across, but they kind of keep to themselves. But other than that, I haven't had any like weird encounters or anything like that. Or and luckily where we are in Scottsdale right now, we don't have a ton of scorpions. But as soon as you go out to like some of the mountains or the hills or get a little bit further out of the city, like you'll start to see them a ton. But luckily where we are, we don't have too many of them.
Yeah, everyone made fun of me when I would go there on vacation because I take my shoes and I
Yeah.
And they're all like, dude, we don't have them in our house. Like, and I'm like, no, I heard you do. And they're like, you're such a Chicago boy.
I'm not gonna lie, I did that for probably the first year or two that I moved out here, and then after 2 years of finding nothing, I'm like, all right, whatever. I'll just put the shoe right on.
Yeah, that's when the scorpion's gonna attack.
That's when they get you, right? Yeah.
All right, so we need some fun facts about you. First thing, we need a good fun fact about you outside of the fact that you have the greatest name ever created.
Okay, fun fact. I picked up a new sport recently. If either of you are familiar with pickleball, have either of you heard of that?
Oh, yeah, pickleball.
It's kind
We
of
played
like,
it in high school in gym class.
Exactly. So that was probably the last time I played it. But it's like tennis and ping pong kind of like merged together. So if you would ask me like 6 months ago if I would ever be playing pickleball, I would have been like, you're crazy. But I played it one time with a friend, and now I'm probably investing way too much time into it. I play 2 to 3 times a week. I've got my own like crew of mostly snowbirds that I play with, but it is an incredible time, and it's super fun. So that's kind of a new adventure that I'm going through right now.
I am hearing a lot about pickleball. The country club back home opened up pickleball in Chicago, and so during the winter they heat the court or whatever, and everyone went and played pickleball. I did not, but it's a part of the country club. So where would you like to travel? Now that, well, hopefully COVID's kind of simmering down or goes away, where would be the one place now that as travel starts to open up that you want to get to?
Yeah. I actually have a trip coming up in mid-October, which I'm looking forward to. So a little bit of a backstory. So I grew up on the East Coast. I have 2 brothers as well, but over the years we've kind of made our way out to the West Coast. So we're not in the same state, but we're kind of spread out. But as soon as we moved out of different states or in different states now, we try and do a yearly brothers trip where we'll just go rough it somewhere. We'll do a backpacking trip, road trip, or something like that. So our yearly trip is coming up here in October. We're actually going to make our way out to El Paso. At least that's where we'll start. And then work our way down through Marfa, if you guys ever heard of that, with like the Marfa lights and things like that. It's kind of like it's an interesting small town, I guess, like, I don't know, kind of a little bit of a backstory. There's like aliens and stuff like that. So no one knows where these lights come from. So we're going to make a stop
Area
there.
51 or whatever.
Kind of, yeah. You're kind of getting into that territory.
That mailbox or whatever that's out there.
Right. Yeah, it's very similar to that. And then we'll work our way down to Big Bend, do some backpacking there, and then round out the trip in Austin. So kind of explore Texas a little bit more, but that's in October. So looking forward to that.
All right. Last one. You will be judged on this. And so far, everyone that has been brought up, Shane has never seen, which creates a significant amount of judgment for Shane that he obviously doesn't watch enough good movies. What is your favorite movie?
Well, I'm probably going to disappoint both of you, but favorite movie is called Reign of Fire. I think it came out
the dragon movie. Nice.
Yes, he saw it. We finally did it.
Garbage films are fantastic.
Yeah,
I love it. That movie is savage. I love dragons.
No, it's a great movie. It's honestly, if you looked up like probably the reviews of it or ever, it's probably terrible. Yeah, but it was one of those things, and I don't even remember when I bought it, but you probably remember back in like your big box stores or whatever, there's those big bins in like the middle of the store where it's just like all these DVDs thrown in there and they're all like $1.99 or something. I just remember like rummaging through that and just like, that was the one I picked out. So that was years ago. I watched it. I actually watched it for like the first time, like a couple of weeks ago. And I'm like, this still holds up. I like it. All right. So that's my movie.
Of course. Everyone else had like a great classic film. Shane had never seen it, but he has seen the movie that probably has like a 4 on Rotten Tomatoes on both the critic and the viewer's side.
Hey, it has an awesome cast, though. I mean, I know like Matthew McConaughey was in it, Christian Bale was in it, Gerard Butler was in it. Like, it was a pretty crazy cast, but it was definitely kind of a garbage movie. That had a bunch of famous people in it, but it was awesome. It was savage. Like if you like dragons, you'll be jazzed.
If you like dragons,
all right. So I think we're getting to know you a little bit, and we've learned a little bit about a town north of Scottsdale that I will never go to, even though these spiders stay away from you. I'm not a big fan of that. But we want to get to know you a little bit more professionally. So you are the director of product at Trainual. I'm saying everything correct here?
That's correct. Yep.
All right. So I guess tell us a little bit about your journey to getting there, right? Because in all the product people we've met, it's a unique area. It's something that probably for the last 20 years has really picked up steam, this whole concept of product management. And a lot of people listening are like, how do I get into product? Maybe they're engineers who'd like to transition, or they're, and I see in your background, you've got a little bit unique to everyone that we've met with prior. So I don't know, tell us a little bit about your journey getting into product.
Yeah. So I guess it's kind of interesting, but I started out from about the last decade. I've worked with different various startups, right? And so early on in my career, I was doing roles like technical support, account management, onboarding, things like that. And one of the things I really enjoyed about that was I was able to sit down with people and talk with them and help them, right? Whether it's answering a question or kind of saying like, hey, they're running into an issue, let me help you solve that. I'll pass this along to the necessary people. Or it was just kind of learning what they were trying to accomplish with our product or our service and kind of like set them up for success or kind of guide them in a certain direction, right? And I loved it. It was great. It was awesome. The one thing that I started to realize over time, though, is I could only help so many people, right? I could only have so many calls per day. There's only so many hours, right, in the week, right? And so, I could help maybe 10 people one day, maybe 20, 30 the other day, but I was capped. Like my ability to go and help people. And I came to that realization that there's so many people I wasn't able to interact with or wasn't able to help, right? And so as much as I enjoyed my job, the potential or impact I could have was kind of in a way capped, right? And so when I started to find out about product management and what that was and what the role was kind of consisting of, for me, that kind of like opened up or kind of like a light bulb in my head that's like, hey, this is like uncapped potential that I can apply these pain points and these problems and what people are going through, apply that to a software or work with engineers, work with designers to build an experience that can really impact everybody, can touch everybody, right? And that's kind of like when that opportunity was there and that door opened, I immediately jumped on that because, it's something that I was passionate about, helping people. And this was a way to kind of scale that to as many people as I possibly could. And that's kind of how I got into it.
I have to ask is like, how did that happen? Was it in a one-on-one? Was it in a job opening and they were like, hey, you should go apply to this? Like, how did that even become a thing, right? Because a lot of people, they're just like, when does that conversation even start and how does it start?
Yeah, that's a good question. So basically what it kind of happened, and it was probably kind of like the circumstance that I was in is, it was a small startup, right? And so there's probably 20 or 25 of us working at the startup. And I kind of became known as somebody in the organization that just knew what our customers liked and disliked. And so engineers would just come over and tap me on the shoulder and be like, hey, we're building this thing. Like, what do you think about it? Is this going to like help people, hurt people? Is this going to make people mad? Whatever the case is. And I started building that relationship directly with our engineers, right? And at the time, our co-founder and CEO was running all of product. He was the kind of the PM, if you will. And we got to a point where, we were scaling that he couldn't take that responsibility on. And because I had that relationship with our engineers and kind of built trust with them, as soon as they were like, we need to hire somebody to fill this PM role, they were saying like, Taylor's the person, like go talk with him. He's already helping us answer these questions. He's already kind of doing that. And so it really kind of stemmed from me working with the people and building relationships with the people and helping them do their job better. And then in return, they were kind of my advocate to kind of get into that role and kind of opened up that door.
Interesting. Essentially, you were doing the job. You were more on like the customer service side of things or the customer relationship success, whatever it was called at the time. And then slowly transitioned because you were already kind of that middleman of being able to own product and guide product and talk to the engineers and everything else.
Exactly. And the one thing I'll say too is like, and I didn't do it necessarily in that specific example, but like with my team today and like I'm an advocate for like continuing to work with them and be like, what are you passionate about? Where are you challenged? Where do you want to go in your career? And like we're having conversations where we might not have a role today, we might not have the opportunity, but that's something at least in the back of my mind as a leader that I can then say like, okay, hey, we're planning this or we're moving this direction. Hey, I already know so-and-so wants to get into this role. And so anyone that wants to get into product management, I think it also starts with being really open and honest with your leader or your manager and just saying like, hey, I love my role, but for me to be challenged and me to be fulfilled, like this is the stuff I'm excited about. And this is the stuff, if there is an opportunity here, I would love to get into. Because the people that are on my team and bring that information to me honestly makes my job easier, because I'm like, I know where you want to go. I know what's going to fulfill you. And so I'm going to do my part to try and get you those opportunities, whether it's here or at other organizations.
I think something that's interesting, because we've talked to people in really large organizations and so on, but I think it's interesting for anyone who is sitting there going, hey, how do I get into this? Is the value of working in that smaller startup, right? If you're at a 7,000 person organization in the customer success, account management, account executive, whatever it is role, I don't think you end up in product, because there's a lot more lanes, defined lanes, and so on. I think a lot of that is a little bit of the success story of being in the small organization, as you said, 25 people or 50 people or whatever it is. Yeah. There's opportunity to leak into a new department, or as you said, when they start adding on their layers and they start going, we need some PMs. Hey, let's go to Taylor. He can be a PM. Even though he doesn't necessarily have 4 years of PM experience, we know him. He's done it here with us. He's going to be an easier transition than bringing from someone from the outside. So I think that's an interesting, maybe glanced over, was a lot of the success came from you found yourself in really unique opportunities because you were in that startup space versus, you really can't do that at Google. That just doesn't happen really at Google. But it can happen at places like Trainual, right? Where there's a lot more opportunity for that, like you said, from your leadership role. So
100%.
Sorry to cut you off, Shane. I know you're
no, you're good. I was just gonna ask, like, how many people are on your team, man? And then, like, I wanted to kind of dive into your experience interviewing people and asking some follow-up questions around that. But like, how big is your current product team?
So right now I oversee product and design. So I just actually closed our last open role Monday. So we have 12 people on the product and design team. When I joined a little over 2 years ago, it was myself and one designer. So within a 2-year time span, I got 6 PMs and 6 designers now on the product and design. So pretty substantial growth in a short time span.
Now, how many of those were like hired from external resources versus transitioned within the organization?
Great question. One was transitioned internally, very similar to the path that I'd kind of talked about. Her name is Alex. She was on our customer success team. She was an account manager for about 1.5 years. I think she was there probably like almost a year before I joined the team. And she transitioned over, and she's an incredible product manager. Everyone else was hired from the outside. So most of the team had some experience in product or design. In our startup too, the product and design team were the first people to actually pilot an internship program. So we actually have a product and design intern that we're looking to eventually transition them into full-time roles as well. So that's another way that we're giving people exposure. So whether they end up working at Trainual or not, and they can take that experience that they're learning at Trainual to another organization, it's hopefully going to help them, get the job that they want, whether it's with us or another company.
Fantastic. So like, when you look at the people that you've interviewed in product, right, what would you say is like an overall common mistake that individuals make as they're going through the interview process? Like, if you were able to pinpoint like 3 major mistakes that you saw across the board that, people fall prey to.
I think the first thing would be communication, right? And so what I mean by that, like, I understand, like, in interviews, like, you're super nervous, like, you're meeting with a bunch of people you don't know, you're trying to get the job, but it comes down to like concise and effective communication is something that, a lot of people ramble, or they will talk around your question. They won't answer the specific question. And so like, when you're in that interview process and you're being asked a question, try and be as specific as possible. And then also follow up as well and be like, hey, did I answer your question correctly? Is anything else I can clarify? But being able to effectively communicate, I think, is one thing that people typically struggle with in the interview process. The second thing I think is empathy. And so what I mean by that, like a lot of the questions that I will ask in an interview process is, how do you handle conflict? How do you resolve conflict? And most of the times when I ask those questions, people are typically, their response is like, okay, so an engineer and I had a disagreement. So we sat in a room, we talked about it, and then we went with the engineer, or we went with, my opinion, or we couldn't figure it out. We had to bring a manager in and they made the decision for us. Honestly, I don't really care who won the conversation or which side you ended up going with. I care that you were able to understand the other person's perspective, because a lot of times when there's disagreements, that other party or that other person has context that you typically don't have. In a lot of cases, you have context that they don't have, right? So your ability to empathize and understand that other person's perspective and understand where they're coming from is really what I'm looking for. And so when I ask that question, I'm trying to see, like, do they have that ability to empathize with the person they're working with? Or is it more about like, hey, I won the conversation, like we went my way? And that's really not what I'm looking for there. So empathy is number 2. A third thing I would probably say is, and this is something that I harp on a lot with my team even to this day, is, outcomes are greater than output. And what I mean by that, a lot of people come into the interview process and they'll be like, hey, I shipped 10 features, or I launched this product line. And as incredible as that is, that you were able to launch a feature or hit a deadline or hit some sort of a, this mark that your team had set, what I care more about is like, okay, you launched that feature, but what was the impact that had on the business? What was the impact that had on the customers in the market? And like, how did you move the business forward? Like, what goals were you setting? Features are great, but really, what was the actual value we're trying to drive? And so that's another misconception where, managing projects and managing like due dates and things like that is an important part of being a product manager. But if you're building 10 things and no one cares and no one uses it, you basically wasted your time and wasted the business's time and wasted your customer's time, right? So it's more about the outcome that you're trying to achieve, the goal that you're setting, and the impact that it has that I care more about than the output itself.
So let's say you're just looking at a sheet of paper, a resume, and you see a PM come to you who's looking for a role at Trainual. Yeah. And I'm assuming what you want to see is them write it out as less of, here's the 7 things I did, and more about, this is what those 7 things did in terms of outcome, the business value of those 7 things, the ROI on them, the customer growth from them, the user increase in time spent on the website or whatever. You want to see the outcome of it.
Exactly.
And a conversation that I've been in recently with a couple of like our clients that are hiring in product is like, there's been this like controversial topic of like, how much time is somebody having conversations around we, and how much time are people having conversations around I? So like, I'm curious of like, does that play like a big key indicator in like your decisions of like, how much time are they talking about like their individual impact versus their collaboration efforts? Because, again, there's a couple of clients that we have, I know, that have rejected a lot of candidates that they deem to be like highly qualified, but it was all like, I did this, I did that, I, and they really struggled to transition their verbiage into having like the we did this because of product being such a collaborative role. I'm curious on how you feel about that.
That's an interesting question. I don't think I've ever disqualified someone or, didn't hire somebody because they talked about themselves, but I do think it's important for them to give recognition where it's due, right? Like, one of the things I like to think about, without engineers, without designers, like, I wouldn't be able to build anything for you, right? So it is a team effort. It is something that people are collaborating about. And so being able to give recognition where recognition is due is something that's super important. But I do understand that when they say I understand there are other people in the organization that are helping support them. Like, one of the things that we always try and do, like, and at Trainual, like, product is like typically the communicator, right? So product does a lot of the outward communication with customers or with the broader organization. But without our engineers, without our designers, without, our customer facing teams helping provide insights, like, we would have nothing. So we always try and celebrate the people that are bringing insights, and we try and recognize them as much as possible, because without them, we couldn't do anything, right? And so I think it's really important in the interview process that, even though it's okay to talk about your accomplishments and what you are doing within the organization, giving the recognition to the people that are either supporting you or making your ideas or making what you're working on a reality is super important.
So here's a little opportunity. I want you to brag about Trainual. Tell us a little bit about what Trainual does and why it's like the coolest place in the world to work. Unfortunately, your roles are all filled, but maybe there are other open roles.
There could be more. Could be more very soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the things, and I'll tell you a quick story, right, about when I interviewed for the company and kind of joined the team. One of the things that we pride ourselves on is our culture is pretty incredible, right? And so when I joined the team and how welcoming, how supportive everyone was, like it almost felt like fake, right? And so when you're going through the interview process and you're talking with your hiring manager, the team, and they're kind of like hyping you up, they're trying to sell you, and I think that's part of the role, right? It's a two-way street, right? That just as much as I'm evaluating a candidate, I'm also allowing them to evaluate me as a leader as well as the organization so that they feel it gets the right fit for them, right? And so some people, when they go through that interview process, they get in there day one or they accomplish their first week or two and they're kind of like, wow, this is not really what I expected. This is kind of missing the mark a little bit. Like, where's all this hype that I was seeing in the interview process, right? And that's one of those things that Trainual is very true, like, and genuine. Like what you're going to see in the interview process, how you're going to interact with everybody, that is our culture in general, right? Everyone's there to support you. Everyone's there to enable you to be like your best possible self. And it's an awesome, awesome environment to be in, right? In addition to that, like as far as what our product does is we are a business playbook software. And basically what that is we help SMBs, small to medium-sized businesses, scale through documentation by creating accountability and alignment for everyone in your organization. So we help answer the question like, who is everybody in the organization? Where do they sit? What are they responsible for? How do I effectively do my job as a product leader? So what are the processes that I need to follow? What are the SOPs in order for me to be successful? As well as what are the policies that we all need to live by, right? To like PTO and other things like that, right? And so our software is a place to document all of that. So as your business changes, as your business grows, you can ensure that everyone has the resources to do their job effectively and grow with you, right? And create alignment around that. So that's what our software does. That's what we do as an organization. One of the things that I always tell people is like, you're going to come into a organization that is very passionate about helping SMBs grow their organization, right? And you really own your experience here. And so as much as you're going to put into this organization, that's what you're going to get out of it. And a lot of people thrive in that environment. Like they want to come in and have an impact. And you get to do that from day one at Trainual. And we're going to give you all the resources, time, and energy to make you be successful here and in your career in general.
That's awesome. And you would say if there's one, this is why you work for Trainual. It has, at least when I'm hearing, two things. One is everyone there is passionate about what you do and the impact you can make. And two is the culture is just awesome. It's great.
Incredible. Yep.
Are you guys then on-prem mostly?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Are you guys like on site, back in office mostly?
We are hybrid. So we do have a local office in Scottsdale, but and I'd probably say 2/3 of our company is actually based out of the Phoenix area, but the rest is all over the country and actually out of the country as well. We have an engineering and QA team in the Ukraine. And so, there are engineers that, or people on the team that are literally 5 minutes from the office and they just want to work from home. And we're totally cool with that. Right. So people get to choose where they want to work and how they want to work. And that's kind of the environment we have.
Yeah, what's kind of interesting is I'm looking up your guys' product a little bit more now. And I'll be honest, and I would say like our conversation, I've got a little bit more clarity. Like, for example, we've used just straight up Confluence pages for a lot of our new hire onboarding and stuff. And we've been, I wouldn't necessarily say 100% happy with it. And I definitely know that after leaving this conversation, me and Taylor are definitely going to be looking at Trainual. And it looks like there's a free onboarding where you can trial it for a little bit and test it out, where I know we're looking at how do we scale as a small business, because we're still only like 15 people strong. And so we're trying to define our roles, figure out how to do better onboarding. And it looks like that's exactly what you guys do, is something that we're trying to solve right now outside of using Confluence, because Confluence, I think, is more geared towards like that enterprise level customer, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's really, really cool. So do you have current openings that you guys are looking to fill use this as your advertisement opportunity?
So currently we don't have any openings on the product and design team, at least not for the remainder of this quarter. But we probably will have some openings on the design team next quarter, and then next year as well. We'll definitely be expanding. We do have a ton of engineering roles open right now. I know we're hiring for an engineering manager and varying levels of engineering engineers as well. So those are open roles we do currently have.
Yeah, because it looks like you guys just raised a round of funding back on June 30th of $27 million. So
we did, yeah.
I'm assuming a lot of that then is market attribution and engineering then, right? For you guys.
Yep, correct. Yeah.
Well, congrats on that. That's a
Thank you.
huge Big deal. Round. We forgot to mention that in the cool stuff going on at Trainual, which is allowing you guys to grow, bring on really strong talent, and continue to just make,
which is
awesome
fantastic
product.
funding especially for the Phoenix area as Phoenix and Arizona in general start to build their tech community, which is like that's definitely a leading funding round for your guys' market, which is fantastic.
Yeah, we're definitely trying to, there's not a ton of super successful tech startups here in the Valley or in the Phoenix Valley. And so it's definitely something that we're trying to make a name for ourselves here as well as across the country as well. So we've got some definitely ground to go, but it's been exciting and a kind of a wild ride over the past couple of years. So it wouldn't change a thing though.
That's all. I mean, that's a lot of where we're at right now in Nashville. The same thing as we're working on building and growing the Nashville community. Maybe we can help you grow the Phoenix community and help you bring on some engineers. So, that's it. Again, we're not Silicon Valley, we're not Seattle. We get that. We're not New York City, but I think you're seeing demographically the country is shifting as everyone's starting to move to places like Phoenix, places like Austin, places like Nashville, and we want to be a major part of that. I love that personally. I moved from Chicago. Shane moved from Seattle, to major markets, moved to a place like Nashville. We're watching the influx of growth here. You're seeing the influx, not just the snowbirds, but the actual people moving to Phoenix. And I'm guessing there are people who are going, man, if only I could find a really great place to work, I would move out of Silicon Valley or Seattle. I would go to Phoenix. Totally love to go there. Well, now there's places like Trainual where they can go and grow their tech careers to something pretty big.
Well, so one other thing I'll add to that too is obviously with a lot of organizations like moving to online or remote work, it's like you can really be anywhere and still work for Trainual or still work for a startup in a different location, right? And I think like one of the things that we witnessed at Trainual is, prior to obviously the whole COVID thing, is we were primarily in office, right? Like you could be flexible, but you would spend 4 to 5 days in the office. And when we were kind of forced into going remote, like we were able to actually thrive in that. And we actually were able to be more productive as an organization because people were able to be flexible with their schedules and kind of figure their own kind of working style out. And so I think a lot of the major tech companies are shifting to 100% remote and being okay with that. And I think that's going to be the trend kind of moving forward. So I don't think you have to be local to Phoenix or you have to be local to a certain area. Like companies are opening up to that. And that's allowing companies like Trainual to find like incredible talent that helps us grow as an organization and also helps that individual who may be in, San Fran or Seattle or a different location.
But let's get real. You can have a much lower cost of living, have an amazing place to live. Unless you have some weird brain like I do, where I cannot be around spiders with hair on it, then Arizona is an amazing place to go. I mean, I love to vacation. I think Scottsdale, arguably outside of the spider situation, is like the greatest place in the United States to live. Scottsdale, Nashville, Charlotte, those three are like really amazing places that I think get a little bit undervalued, but they're starting to definitely get on the radar of a lot of people. Cost of living, climate. Obviously, you have a bad summer, but the rest of your year is amazing.
It's great. Yeah.
I mean, no better place to go play a round of golf in February than Scottsdale, Arizona.
I'm doing it this weekend. Even in the 100-degree weather, your body adjusts to it. You'll get used to it. But
we have 95 degrees, but with our humidity, it feels like 184.
Yeah, it's bad. Yeah.
I was like a snow bear, so I'm used to the cold. I love the cold.
It's not me. All right, so let's we'll come full circle. We'll get back to the beginning. You said you're from the East Coast. I'm guessing Pennsylvania.
Correct. Yes.
All right. So that's just a really, really well-educated guess. So if you're in Pennsylvania, you are either a Steelers or an Eagles fan?
I am a Eagles fan.
Okay. So you're from the Philly area. All right. So were you part of throwing snowballs at Santa Claus?
I was not. I know we've got a bad rap for a few things, but yes, I was not a part of that crowd.
All right, so you're a big Eagles fan. All right, so go Eagles. Are you like a big Philly sports fanatic?
100%. Oh yeah, all Philly sports.
Do you watch the Goldbergs?
The Goldbergs?
Yeah, TV show. No,
I do. Oh, okay. I've heard of it, but no, I do.
It's
not
kind of based in Philly, so I don't know. All right, so you're a big Sixers fan. Yes. Are you a Phillies fan?
I am.
Oh, geez.
Oh, the Flyers. Can't forget about the Flyers too.
Well, I can forget about them because I'm from Chicago and we have the Blackhawks, so we can easily forget about them.
Yeah.
All right, so that's cool. All right, so we will be go Eagles. Are you a big college football fan? As college football is about to kick off this weekend.
I'm not a huge college football fan, but Penn State is definitely up there for a team I would go with.
All right, Nittany Lions. All right, well, we're in the South here, so everyone talks about, the SEC. I'm a Big Ten guy through and through, so still think the Big Ten has better football than down here. Maybe not in terms of wins and losses, but I think we looked better on the field. So
yeah, that's what counts, right?
Yeah. So, all right, well, Taylor, this was awesome. Trainual is awesome. I think people should go check out. Meet up with you on LinkedIn and connect with you on LinkedIn. Go follow Trainual on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
If you're an engineer, they're hiring as they've raised a significant amount of funding to continue to grow their product and make it just awesome for small and medium-sized businesses. So really appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problem. If I can actually do one other quick plug too as well. We actually have a pretty big event that's coming up towards the end of this the month. September 30th, we're doing our second annual Playbook event. We've got people, all business leaders, like successful business leaders coming in to actually talk with people that are in our market, and some exciting speakers. So Gary Vee will be there. The one that I am actually most excited about, we're doing a live Q&A with Shaquille O'Neal. So if you want to ask Shaquille O'Neal some questions, feel free to attend. It's a completely free event. It is on September 30th. If you want to register for it, it is playbook.trainual.com. And that is TRAINUAL for trainual.com. But you'll see some of the awesome stuff working on the product. We get to hear from incredible product and business leaders, and it's going to be a great time. So both of you are more than welcome to attend as well. But anyone else that's interested, it's going to be a great event.
Fantastic.
All right, well, you got my ear, so now I'm kind of hooked. You basically said Shaquille O'Neal is cooler than Gary Vee. So everyone who listens to this, all 7 people are going to know that. But no, more importantly, so you said it's September 30th. Is this like give me a time? Is this an evening get together? Is this a during the day type event?
This is during the day. So I believe it starts at 9 a.m. PST, and we'll go to about 1 p.m. as well.
All right. So September 30th, everyone mark it in your calendars, 9 a.m. PST time. And again, give us the website one more time. And then when we post this on LinkedIn and stuff, we will make sure to put that on there. But what's the website? And maybe Maddie, roll it across the bottom.
How you register for the event is playbook.trainual.com.
Playbook.trainual.com. All right. So I expect everyone to go, and you can ask questions of Shaquille O'Neal, listen to Gary Vee speak. And Gary Vee's got some, he's pretty on point with some of his stuff. He's pretty awesome. So Taylor, this was great. Hopefully everyone joins you at the Playbook event that you got going on at the end of the month. I want to be there. So I'll make sure to get in my calendar here. This was awesome, ton of fun. Hopefully you guys connect with Taylor, and this excites you guys to get into product, maybe transition from engineering into product, or as you saw from Taylor's experience, kind of the customer side into product, and also get excited about working with some smaller startups because it opens up some pretty fantastic doors for you like it did for Taylor. So thanks again, Taylor. Thanks everyone for listening. Thank you, Shane. And we will see everyone hopefully in a week or two.
Next in.